Smash Bros. Melee. Great game, right? A true classic of the GameCube era, but its long-standing legacy doesn't just include the fact that the game was a staple of the EVO fighting game tournament all the way up until 2018, or that, you know, it's just a really good game. But more than that, possibly the most important thing that Super Smash Bros. Melee did for gaming was its inclusion of 2 Japanese-speaking sword wielders as secret characters. 2 characters from a Japan-only series called Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem as a series wouldn't see an official Western release until 2003, but this year, Nintendo is commemorating the 30th anniversary of the series by finally, for the first time, releasing an officially translated version of the game that started it all on Nintendo Switch. My name is RONSPIES, and you're watching All In. And to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Fire Emblem as a series, let's take a look back at the entire Fire Emblem series. But first of all, what's Fire Emblem? Like, what do you do? Fire Emblem is what's known as a tactical RPG. That is, it's like a strategy game and a role-playing game mixed. You move units around, and you have to be smart about how you go about each combat situation, but your characters also level up and can be upgraded in tons of different ways. And speaking of characters, Fire Emblem games typically feature a huge cast of unique characters that are all threatened by something called permadeath. Permadeath is pretty much completely optional in the newer Fire Emblem games, but permadeath is exactly what it sounds like. If a character runs out of HP, that's it, they're out of the game. All of this began in the year 1990 with Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Sword of Light on the Famicom, or the Japanese NES. This was our introduction to the foundation that would become standard in the series, developed in collaboration between Nintendo and Intelligent Systems. Shadow Dragon would eventually be remade for the Nintendo DS, but we still never got the original game. Of course, as I mentioned earlier though, that's about to change. The second game in the series was Fire Emblem Gaiden, released in 1992, and we actually did get a version of this game even if you didn't realize it. We know it as Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, a 3DS remake of Gaiden that came out in 2017. From there, you have all sorts of, well-regarded mind you, Fire Emblem games that still haven't seen the light of Western sunshine. Mystery of the Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War, Thracia 776, which some consider the best and the most difficult game in the series, and The Binding Blade. And now, we catch up to where we started getting Fire Emblem games, The Blazing Blade. At least, that was the title in Japan. Over here, it was just called Fire Emblem. For us, it was the beginning, but over in Japan, it's actually a direct prequel to The Binding Blade, which we never got. For a couple of years, our experience with Fire Emblem was completely limited to the Game Boy Advance, with the simply named Fire Emblem and its follow-up, The Sacred Stones. Both are very well regarded and serve as excellent introductions to the series, but in my opinion, Fire Emblem truly began in the West with the release of Path of Radiance on GameCube in 2005, the first home console Fire Emblem game ever released in the West. Path of Radiance really modernized the series and made it what it is today. A huge cast of characters, a base of operations. It's the Fire Emblem that really put the RPG in tactical RPG. Path of Radiance also got a direct sequel, Radiant Dawn, on the Nintendo Wii. This was my introduction to Fire Emblem, and to be brutally honest, I got destroyed. Radiant Dawn was definitely meant to be played after Path of Radiance, not just in terms of the story, but also due to the fact that the game starts and is immediately really hard. It is very much a part 2 to Path of Radiance. For a long time, Fire Emblem was considered one of the most difficult franchises under Nintendo's belt, and I instantly understood why. So remember when I said Shadow Dragon would eventually be remade for the Nintendo DS? That's what we got right after Radiant Dawn. And it wasn't just a prettier version of Shadow Dragon, it also implemented lots of the new features added to the series since 1990. Intelligent Systems also gave the same treatment to Mystery of the Emblem on DS, but for one final time, it was only released in Japan. The truth is, Nintendo was actually considering completely pulling Fire Emblem from the West. But they weren't just gonna pull an Irish goodbye and leave without saying anything. And I can make that joke because I'm like half Irish. Nintendo and Intelligent Systems wanted to pool their efforts and make one last push to make Fire Emblem work in the West. And the result of those efforts is 2013's Fire Emblem Awakening. And if you know that game, then you know how that went for them. It went like really well. Awakening was created to be very broadly appealing, while still retaining the parts of Fire Emblem that made the series special. There is now the option to turn permadeath off to make things less stressful. The support system was expanded and included romance options. And for the first time, Western players could create their own character as an avatar. That was actually something they added in New Mystery of the Emblem, but we never got that. For many, this was the introduction to Fire Emblem. It was far and away the most successful Fire Emblem game, and Nintendo capitalized on the rampant newfound success of Fire Emblem by releasing the experimental Fire Emblem Fates, a Pokemon-esque collection of 2 separate games, Birthright and Conquest, that show a story unfolding in different ways, culminating in Revelation, the canon storyline and ending. Fates gave Fire Emblem players the choice to play their ideal version of Fire Emblem. Birthright was an even more simplified experience that took cues from many of the additions from Awakening, while Conquest was a more traditional Fire Emblem experience focused on strategy and difficulty. Fates basically asked, do you want an RPG or strategy game? And now we catch up to the latest entry, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Three Houses takes what Fates did and amplifies it to an insane degree. Three Houses is one of the most replayable games I have ever played. You have 4 different routes to explore, each with significant differences, each with their own twists and turns, and all playable with the biggest roster of characters ever featured in a Fire Emblem game. I actually don't know that for a fact, but it definitely feels that way. It's arguably the most RPG of all the Fire Emblem games, but it'll still kick your butt if you're not careful. And now, for better or worse, we're in 2020, the 30th anniversary of Fire Emblem. As I stated at the beginning, Nintendo is commemorating this momentous occasion with an official localization of the very first game in the series, complete with some modern features like save states and fast forwarding that many consider standard issue for any new Fire Emblem game. But for the die-hard fans, there's the 30th Anniversary Edition, a physical collector's edition that comes with a lot of really cool stuff, like a beautiful collector's box, a huge art book, a map, a mini Nintendo Power collectible, and even a replica NES game box, complete with a clear replica NES cartridge and sleeve. Of course, the game itself is a code for a digital copy, which is probably how most of us casuals will experience the game, in which case a nice little eShop card will have to do. And with that, that's it from me. If you want to follow me, Wade RONSPIES, on Twitter, it's @WadeLikesPie, and you can subscribe to me on YouTube at RONSPIES. I hope you feel ready to tackle the series at any point now. So play Three Houses, play Shadow Dragon 30th Anniversary Edition. Just play Fire Emblem. Just go. Just play it.